You know, I have this theory that modern life is basically just one long, exhausting attempt to optimize ourselves.
Hmm.
We've got the sleep trackers, the productivity apps, the intermittent fasting, and of course, the meditation streaks we are absolutely terrified of breaking.
Right.
It just feels like self improvement has mutated into a second full time job.
It's the optimization trap.
Right.
We've started treating the human mind like it's a buggy piece of software that needs constant patching.
Yes. Like if we just download the right update, we'll finally be happy.
Exactly.
And that is precisely why the source material we're covering today just fine. It stopped me in my tracks. It's a text called The Psychological Sovereignty of Non-Dual Awareness.
Hmm.
And it suggests that the reason we feel that exhaustion, that kind of spiritual burnout, is because we're doing mindfulness wrong.
Wrong or
Or maybe not wrong, but we're sort of stuck in a beta version of the practice that might actually be reinforcing the very anxiety we're trying to cure.
it's a bold claim, isn't it? I mean, most of us know the standard mindfulness,
Mm.
watching the breath, labeling thoughts, trying to stay present.
And that's valuable, incredibly valuable.
It is. But this deep dive is exploring a really radical shift. It asks, what happens if you stop ship to improve the self?
And instead realize that the self, at least the way you think of it, doesn't actually exist.
Exactly.
Which I have to say sounds terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing you realize right before you sell all your belongings and move to a yurt.
Right, it can sound that way. But what I love about this source is that it frames this not as religious dogma, but as psychological mechanics.
Okay.
We're talking about relief from chronic rumination, from anxiety,
Hmm.
from that feeling of being trapped inside your own head.
So help us map this out. The text draws a really hard line between dual mindfulness and non-dual awareness. What is the actual structural difference there?
Okay, so let's look at the architecture of how most people meditate. We call this dual mindfulness. Structurally, it splits reality into two parts. You have the subject, that's you, the meditator, the doer, trying to focus.
Okay.
And then you have the object, the breath, the sensation in your knee, the sound of traffic.
So the equation is basically, I am here watching that thing over there.
Precisely. It's a subject-object relationship.
Yeah.
And I want to be really clear. This is actually very useful.
Life-saving even.
It can be. If you're having a panic attack, creating that distance is everything. It helps you step back and say, I am not this panic. I am watching the panic. It creates a gap.
But the source argues there's a ceiling to this.
Yes, because it reinforces a subtle, unexamined belief that there is a manager in your head. It strengthens the idea of a separate, solid I who is controlling the attention.
I see.
Non-dual awareness flips the script entirely. Instead of refining the watcher, you investigate the watcher.
You ask, who is observing?
That's the question.
And this is where it gets a little trippy. Because when you turn the camera around to look at the photographer,
Hmm?
what do you actually find?
You find nothing. No thing. You don't find a little homunculus named me pulling levers in your brain.
Yes.
You find an open, boundless field of awareness. The subject dissolves, and there is just knowing. There's no separation between the person hearing the sound and the sound itself. There's just the experience of hearing.
That distinction is so crucial. It's the difference between I am listening to the rain and simply there is rain. But let's be real, this is hard to grasp intellectually. The source uses a few metaphors that I think are essential here. The cinema screen analogy really stuck with me.
That's a classic for a reason. So think of your life, your thoughts, your emotions, the world you see as a movie playing on a screen.
Full of drama.
Full of drama, tragedy, comedy, explosions, fires, all of it. In dual mindfulness, you're sitting in the front row, watching the movie, trying not to get too sucked in.
You're telling yourself, it's just a movie, stay calm, it's just a movie.
But you're still flinching at the explosions. You're still emotionally tethered to the plot. Non-dual awareness is the realization that you aren't the person in the front row. You are the screen. The screen allows the whole movie to play. It holds the fire, the tears, the joy. But notice this. The screen itself is never burned by the fire in the movie.
It never gets wet from the tears.
It's intimately one with the movie. You can't separate the image from the screen, but it's also completely untouched by it.
That feels significantly less claustrophobic. If I'm the screen, I don't have to frantically try to edit the movie script in real time. I can just let it play.
And that is the psychological sovereignty the title is talking about. It's the sovereignty of the screen.
It doesn't care if it's playing a horror movie or a romance.
It remains pristine.
Okay, before we get into the specific benefits, because there are some major claims here about anxiety and depression, We need to ground this. This isn't just some modern life hack invented in Silicon Valley.
Not at all. The source traces this back to some very old, very heavy-duty traditions.
Yeah.
It explicitly roots this in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism. You'll see terms like Mahamudra and Dzogchen.
The graduate school of meditation practices, I've heard them called.
That's a good way to put it. They tend to skip the preliminaries and go straight to the nature of mind.
I noticed the term sunyata came up a lot. It translates to emptiness. And I have to be honest, whenever I hear emptiness, my Western brain goes straight to nihilism.
Of course.
It just sounds so depressing, like a cold, dark void where nothing matters.
That is the most common translation error, and it scares a lot of people off. In this context, emptiness doesn't mean nothing is there. It means empty of rigid thingness.
Okay.
Think of it more like spaciousness or potential.
So going back to the screen analogy, the screen is empty of a permanent image so that it can display any image.
That is a perfect way to put it. Or think of a mirror. A mirror is empty because it doesn't have a face painted on it.
Right.
And because it's empty, it can reflect your face, my face, the sky, everything perfectly. If the mirror had a permanent image painted on it, it couldn't reflect reality.
So when the text says awareness is empty, it means it's this vivid, open capacity for experience.
Exactly. It's full of life, not a void.
Okay, that clicks. It's empty of blockage, but full of experience. Now, the source also dives into Dzogchen, which is often called the Great Perfection. There was a specific term there. Rigpa. What are we talking about here?
Rigpa is, it refers to primordial awareness. It's the nature of your mind before you start stress planning your week.
Yeah.
The text describes it as having three qualities. It is empty, so it's open.
Yeah.
It's cognizant, so it's aware and knowing. And this is the kicker, it's unconfined.
Unconfined, meaning it doesn't have edges.
It has no boundaries.
Yeah.
And the radical instruction in Dzogchen is that you don't have to create this state. You don't have to meditate for 20 years to build it. It's already there.
Like the sun behind the clouds.
That's the classic analogy. You don't have to manufacture the sun. You just have to notice that the clouds, your thoughts, are temporary. The sun of awareness has always been shining.
This brings us to the how, because this is where I always get stuck. In standard mindfulness, I have instructions. Focus on the breath. Mind wanders. Bring it back.
It's a rep, a bicep curl for the brain.
Exactly. But non-dual practice seems subtler. The source mentions inquiry. How do you actually do this?
It's less about doing and more about looking. The source highlights the method of self-inquiry. You use questions like a laser to cut through the illusion.
So you ask, who is the observer? Or where does this thought come from?
Or, can I find the boundary between my awareness and this sound?
But you're not looking for a verbal answer, right? You're not supposed to say, oh, the observer is my frontal cortex.
No, exactly. You're looking for the feeling of the answer. You look for the looker, and you fail to find a solid entity. You just find this open space.
I've heard of the headless way.
It's a modern adaptation. You look back at where your face should be, metaphorically, and instead of seeing your own face, you see the world. You are the open capacity for the world to appear.
You are the space in which the room sits.
You've got it.
It sounds almost too simple to be effective. But let's bridge this to so what? Our listener might be thinking, okay, I'm a screen, I'm a mirror, that's poetic, but I have social anxiety and a boss who emails me at 10 p.m.
A very real concern. And the source claims this shift in perspective has tangible mental health benefits. Huge ones.
Let's start with the first one, existential anxiety.
The big one. That low-level hum of dread.
We're all carrying it.
So let's break down what anxiety usually is. At its core, anxiety is a defense mechanism. It's the self trying to protect itself.
What if I fail? What if they reject me?
What if I lose my status? It's all built around defending the castle of the ego.
Right. It's me versus the world, and I need to fortify the walls.
But if you shift to a non-dual view, you realize there's no castle. If you realize the self is just a flowing process like a river, you can't be damaged in the same way.
You can't stick a sword in a river.
You can't. The source describes this as a fearlessness that comes not from being brave, but from realizing you aren't a target.
I love that distinction. It's not that the scary things stop happening, it's that there's no bullseye painted on your chest anymore.
Exactly. The anxiety might still arise, energy still moves through the system, but it doesn't land. It flows through the screen without burning it.
It becomes just another sensation rather than a threat to your existence.
Which leads directly into the second benefit, emotional resilience.
There is a nuance here I found really helpful about the ownership of emotion.
This is a game changer for people with strong emotions. In dual mindfulness, we often say, I am angry, or even, I am observing my anger.
We claim it, we put our name tag on it, it's our property.
It's part of our identity in that moment.
Right.
In non-dual awareness, the framing shifts to, anger is appearing in awareness.
It sounds like a semantic trick.
It does. But the psychological impact is massive. It depersonalizes the event. You treat the emotion like a weather pattern passing through the sky.
You don't look at a thunderstorm and say, this storm is my fault, or I am this storm.
You just let it rain until it passes.
And the source mentioned this helps specifically with shame. Shame is such a sticky emotion.
Yes, because shame requires a solid me to be ashamed of. I am bad. If you view the thought, I am bad, as just another sound passing through awareness, no different than a bird chirping or a car honking.
It loses its grip. You don't have to believe the narrator.
Exactly.
Speaking of the narrator, that brings us to the third benefit, breaking the rumination loop. The source calls this undermining the internal tyrant.
We all have that voice, the 3 a.m. committee meeting in your head.
Oh, mine is particularly loud about interactions I had in 2008. The cringe archive.
We all have the cringe archive. Now, usually we try to fight those thoughts. We argue with them, we rationalize them, we suppress them. Non-dual practice offers a different exit door. Disidentification. You realize that thoughts are spontaneous appearances. You didn't choose to think them. They just popped up.
That is a weird realization, actually. If I tell the listener right now, don't think of a white bear.
They immediately think of a white bear. We don't control the inputs.
We don't. And if you don't control them and you didn't ask for them, why are you taking them so personally? Why claim them as yours?
The source suggests that when you see thoughts as just pop-ups rather than my truth, the compulsion to analyze them just dissolves. You don't take the bait.
It's like treating your brain like a spam folder. You see the subject line, you recognize it's junk, and you just don't click open.
You just let it sit there until it deletes itself. And the more you do that rest in the awareness rather than the content, the quieter the mind naturally becomes.
Not because you forced it to shut up,
but because you stopped feeding it energy.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate for a second. There is a common critique of this stuff. If I dissolve myself and I stop taking everything personally, do I just become a cold, unfeeling robot?
The compassion question.
Yeah, the source mentions compassion as a benefit, but logic would suggest the opposite. If I don't exist, why should I care about you?
It's a really valid fear.
Yeah.
But the source argues that true compassion actually requires this non-dual insight.
How so?
Think about it. Conventional compassion is often an effort. It's me over here trying to be nice to you over there. There's a gap. There's judgment.
I am the helper, you are the helped. It can be a bit patronizing. Or transactional.
Exactly. I'll be nice to you so I feel like a good person. But in the non-dual view, the boundary between self and other softens. You realize that the same awareness looking out of my eyes is looking out of yours.
We're the same stuff?
We are. The text says compassion becomes a natural reflex, like your left hand helping your right hand. If your right hand gets a cut, the left hand doesn't say, oh, look at me being so charitable helping you.
It just helps, because it's part of the same body.
It shifts from moral duty to structural reality.
We're in the same suit.
And this connects to authenticity. If you aren't spending 90% of your energy defending a rigid self-image, trying to look smart or cool or competent,
you have a lot more bandwidth to just be present with people. You can actually listen because you're not rehearsing your response.
It's the greatest energy leak in the human system. Imagine the energy you'd save if you'd just dropped the mask.
Which leads us to the final major theme, and maybe the most paradoxically difficult one for high achievers, the shift from doing to being.
The trap of striving.
Yes. Even meditation becomes striving. I sit down and think, I'm going to meditate so hard right now, I'm going to crush this mindfulness session.
And in non-dual traditions, that very striving is seen as the obstacle. The source says that striving is just another thought. It's just another ripple on the pond.
You can't smooth the water with a flat iron.
You just have to leave it alone.
But the source introduces effortless being. How do we distinguish that from just being lazy? If I stop striving, won't I just sit on the couch eating chips?
A great question. This is where we have to look at concepts like wu-wei or flow states. The text clarifies this isn't passivity. It's about action that isn't driven by neurotic deficiency.
Unpack that. Neurotic deficiency.
Most of our action is driven by a feeling of, I'm not enough, so I need to achieve X to feel okay. That's high-friction action. It burns you out.
Right.
Non-dual action comes from a place of completeness. You act because the situation calls for it, like an athlete in the zone. They aren't thinking, I must catch this ball to prove my worth to my father.
They just catch the ball.
The action happens through them.
So you can still write the book, build the company, raise the kids, but the fuel source changes.
The fuel changes from fear to play or love. It becomes lighter. The source mentions practitioners report a background sense of okayness, not ecstatic joy, but a stability.
A baseline.
A baseline that says, even if this project fails, I am fundamentally whole.
That baseline stability sounds like the Holy Grail. But before we wrap up, we need the warning label. The expert has to come out. Is this a magic pill?
I wish. No, the source is very clear. This is simple, but it is not easy. It's not a quick fix.
Right.
Well, the glimpse of non-dual awareness can happen in a split second, a sudden aha, where the self drops away. Stabilizing that view takes practice.
The state versus trait distinction.
Exactly. Anyone can have a state experience. You might get it looking at a sunset or in a deep conversation, but making it a permanent way of seeing requires integration.
And the source says these insights are traditionally grounded in a framework.
They are. Ethics, concentration, training, community.
Yeah.
If you strip all that away and just try to hack your way to enlightenment, it can actually be destabilizing.
Right. Realizing I don't exist could be liberating, or it could trigger a dissociative episode if you're not grounded.
Correct. So the advice is to treat this with respect. It's a practice of gentle returning. You will get lost in the movie again. You will get angry and blame the world. That's okay.
The practice is just noticing.
Just noticing that and gently remembering you're the screen.
It's a forgiving practice. You can't really fail because the awareness is always there waiting for you to notice it.
It never leaves. It is the one constant in your life. Everything else, your body, your thoughts, your relationships, it all changes.
Yeah.
This awareness is the only thing that's been with you since you were born, and it hasn't aged a day.
That is a comforting thought. We spend so much time trying to build a fortress to feel safe when the safety was in the open space all along.
That is the paradox. We search the world for what is right here, looking out of our own eyes.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the dual watcher model to the non-dual field model. We looked at the ancient roots in Dzogchen and Mahamudra.
We unpack how this dissolves anxiety and rumination by removing the target.
And how it shifts us from neurotic striving to effortless flow. A true deep dive.
Indeed.
I want to leave our listener with a final thought to mull over. We usually wake up and immediately check our phone, check our to-do list, check our status.
We reload the self-program first thing in the morning. You put on the costume.
Exactly. So here's the challenge from the source material. Tomorrow morning, before you pick up the phone, before you remember all your problems, take 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, and ask yourself this. If I am not my history and I am not my next thought, then who or what is hearing this silence right now?
That's the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next one.